Enjoy this sample video delivered to you by Lloyd Learner. Follow us on our social media handles and check out our website to see how you can access more videos. Welcome back to Lloyd Learner, living with the physical environment. Section C, Physical Landscapes in the UK. This is the first video on coastal landscapes in the UK, covering wave types and characteristics, as well as a number of coastal processes. Now, let's get into the video. When a wave reaches the shore, the water that rushes up the beach is known as the swash. The water that flows back towards the sea is known as the backwash. The characteristics of a destructive wave are a weak swash and strong backwash. The strong backwash removes sediment from the beach, and the waves are steep and close together. The characteristics of a constructive wave are a strong swash and weak backwash. The strong swash brings sediment to build up the beach. The backwash is not strong enough to remove the sediment, and the waves are low and further apart. Now, let's take a look at erosion and weathering. Weathering is the breakdown of rocks where they are. Erosion is when the rocks are broken down and carried by something, for example, by seawater. Now let's take a look at weathering processes. For example, freeze-thaw weathering, which occurs when rocks are porous, contains holes, or permeable. Water enters cracks in the rock. When temperatures drop, the water freezes and expands, causing the crack to widen. The ice melts and water makes its way deeper into the cracks. The process repeats itself until the rock splits entirely. Plants and animals can also have an effect on rocks. Plant roots can get into small cracks in the rock. As the roots grow, the cracks become larger. This causes small pieces of rock to break away. And chemical weathering. Rainwater and seawater can be a weak acid. If a coastline is made up of rocks, such as limestone or chalk, over time they can be dissolved by the acid in the water. Now, mass movement, which is the downhill movement of sediment that moves because of gravity. There are 3 different types of mass movement, including rockfall, bits of rockfall on the cliff face, usually due to freeze-thaw weathering. Mudflow, saturated soil filled with water, flows down a slope. Landslide, large blocks of rock slide downhill. And rotational slip, saturated soil slumps down a curved surface. Erosion is the wearing away of a rock along the coastline. Destructive waves are responsible for erosion on the coastline. There are 3 types of erosion: hydraulic action, abrasion, and attrition. Hydraulic action. This is the sheer power of the waves as they smash against the cliff, air trapped in the cracks in the rock, causing rock to break apart. Abrasion. Eroded particles in the water scrape and rub against each other and the rock, removing small pieces. And attrition. Eroded particles in the water smash into each other and break into smaller fragments. Their edges also get rounded off as they rub together. Now, transportation. This is the movement of material. Beach material can be moved in 4 ways, including traction, saltation, suspension, and solution. Firstly, traction, which is large particles like boulders that are pushed along the seabed by the force of the water. Saltation. Pebble-sized particles are bounced along the seabed by the force of the water. Suspension. Small particles like silt and clay are suspended and held in the water and carried along. And solution. Soluble minerals and materials like chalk and limestone are dissolved in seawater and then carried along in solution. The load is not visible. An example of a transportation process is longshore drift. The process is as follows. 1. The waves move at an angle due to the prevailing winds. 2. They carry sediment and pick it up. 3. The swash carries the sand and pebbles up the beach at the same angle, usually 45 degrees, and the backwash, however, carries the material back down the beach at right angles, as this is the steepest gradient. And this allows material to be transported to the west along the beach. Now let's take a look at deposition. Deposition is when the sea loses energy and drops the material it has been carrying. Deposition can occur on coastlines that have constructive waves, and factors leading to deposition include waves starting to slow down and lose energy, shallow water, sheltered areas, for example bays, and little or no wind. Waves that deposit more material than they erode are called constructive waves. They have a low frequency, 6 to 8 waves per minute. They're low and long. This swash is powerful, and it carries material up the coast as well as having a weaker backwash. And it doesn't take a lot of material back down the coast. This means material is deposited on the coast. Now, this concludes the first video on coastal landscapes in the UK, where we covered wave types and characteristics, as well as a number of coastal processes.